Long ago, in the lush valleys of Mandira, a great river curved like a silver serpent through the land. The people called it the River of Truth, for they believed it could test the hearts of men and women. If one crossed it with a false vow, the waters would rise and swallow them whole. In a nearby village lived Kwame, a young hunter known for his courage, and Amina, a farmer's daughter with eyes as bright as dawn. They met by the river one morning when Amina was gathering water in a clay pot. Kwame, returning from the forest with a catch, helped her lift the heavy pot to her shoulder. Their eyes met and something unspoken passed between them. From that day, they met often. Sometimes at the river bend, sometimes under the great Iroko tree that shaded the village square. Kwame told her stories of the forest spirits, while Amina taught him songs her grandmother sang about love and fate. Soon, whispers began to spread. The villagers said the two were inseparable, as if the river itself had tied their souls together. But one evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, Amina spoke with worry in her voice. Kwame, my father wishes me to marry Bako, the trader's son. He says Bako will provide wealth for our family. Kwame's chest tightened. And what of love, Amina? What of promises made beneath the sky and river? She touched his hand gently. I love you, Kwame. But in Mandira, love is never enough. Only the river can decide if we are true. Her words struck deep. In Mandira, lovers who wished to prove themselves had to cross the river of truth together. If their love was pure, the waters calmed. If it was false, the current would rise, and one or both would be lost. Kwame looked toward the glowing river, its silver waves reflecting the stars. Then let the river judge us. If our love is true, no tide can part us. And so their journey began, toward a test that would decide whether their love was destiny or a fleeting dream. The next morning, Kwame and Amina walked hand in hand to the village square. The elders sat beneath the ancient Iroko tree, their grey beards flowing like river foam, their staffs planted firmly in the soil. The oldest among them, Elder Jabri, raised his voice. Kwame, Amina, you seek to bind your lives together. But Mandira does not honor love without proof. The river will decide if your hearts are true. The villagers gathered, murmuring with excitement. Some believed in the lovers, others whispered doubts. Bako, the trader's son, stood among the crowd with a sneer. He was tall, wealthy, and proud. To him, Amina's choice of a hunter over a rich man was foolishness. Why test the river for a hunter with no gold? Bako mocked. Because gold cannot warm the heart, Amina replied firmly. The crowd gasped, but Kwame only placed his arm around her shoulders. That evening, the lovers were brought to the riverbank. The air was heavy with the sound of drums, each beat echoing like a heartbeat. Women sang ancient songs, while men lit torches that flickered in the twilight. Elder Jabri held up a gourd filled with river water. Drink and speak your vow. If your words are false, the river will claim you. If they are true, you shall cross together unharmed. Kwame stepped forward first. He drank, his voice strong. By the spirits of Mandira, I vow to love Amina all my life. I vow to protect her as I would my own breath, and to never betray her trust. The waters stirred, but did not rise. Then Amina lifted the gourd. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were steady as she spoke. By the river's truth, I vow to love Kwame until the stars fade. I vow to walk with him in poverty or wealth, in joy or sorrow. My heart is his, and only his. For a moment, the river glowed under the moonlight as if it had heard and approved. But just as the villagers cheered, Baku stepped forward angrily. Elders, the woes mean nothing. Words are wind. Let them cross the river now. Let us see if their love is truly strong. The crowd roared in agreement. The elders nodded gravely. So it shall be. At dawn, Kwame and Amina will cross the river of truth together. That night, as they sat beneath the stars, Amina whispered, Kwame, are you afraid? He looked into her eyes and smiled. Not of the river, Amina. Only of losing you. And the river, flowing gently in the distance, seemed to wait ready to reveal the truth of their hearts when the sun rose again. At dawn, the drums began to thunder. The entire village gathered along the riverbank, their faces tense with anticipation. Mist rose from the surface of the river of truth, curling like the breath of spirits. The current was strong, swirling in shades of silver and blue, as if alive and listening. Kwame and Amina stood side by side. Their hands were bound together with a rope woven from palm leaves, a symbol of unity. If one turned back, the other would be dragged with them. There was no way to pretend. Elder Jabri raised his staff. Step into the river, children of Mandira. Let the water judge your love. Kwame led Amina into the river. The water was icy, pulling at their legs, but they walked steadily. At first, the current calmed around them, as if guiding their way. The villagers gasped, perhaps their love truly was blessed. But halfway across, the river changed. The waters rose suddenly, waves lashing against them like angry hands. The rope binding their wrists cut into their skin as the current tried to tear them apart. The crowd cried out. Some shouted for them to turn back, others urged them to go forward. Baku smirked, certain that the river would expose them. Amina slipped, her feet swept from under her. She fell into the rushing current, her cry piercing the air. Hold on, Amina. Kwame roared, gripping her with all his strength. The river's voice seemed to rumble like thunder. Is your love strong enough to endure loss? Is your vow stronger than death? The waters rose higher, nearly covering them. For every step Kwame took forward, the river pulled harder backward. Amina clung to him, gasping for breath. Let me go, Kwame, she cried. Save yourself. If one of us must die, let it be me. But Kwame shook his head, his eyes fierce. I vowed before the river and the stars, I will never leave you. If you drown, I drown too. The villagers stood frozen. Even the elders, who had seen countless trials, were shaken. Never had anyone declared such defiance to the river itself. As Kwame dragged Amina upward, both of them nearly swallowed by the torrent, the rope binding their wrists snapped, yet they refused to let go of each other's hands. In that moment, the river stilled. The waves sunk. The water around them glowed like silver fire. The villagers gasped, falling to their knees. Elder Jabri whispered, awestruck. The river has accepted them. Their love is true. Hand in hand, soaked but unbroken, Kwame and Amina walked out of the river together. Dash. But as they reached the shore, Baku stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. No. This cannot be. The river has been tricked. No love can be stronger than gold, stronger than power. He raised a dagger, rushing toward Kwame. The villagers screamed. And so the final test began, not from the river, but from man. Baku charged forward, dagger flashing in the morning light. His greed and jealousy burned hotter than reason, determined to destroy what the river itself had blessed. Kwame instinctively stepped in front of Amina, shielding her with his body. The villagers shouted, some too terrified to move. But just as Bako's blade was about to strike, the river of truth roared. A massive wave surged from the water, crashing onto the shore. The force knocked Bako backward, flinging him into the shallows. His dagger slipped from his hand, swallowed by the current. He screamed as the water pulled him deeper, until he vanished beneath the river that judged false hearts. Silence fell over the crowd. Everyone stared at the glowing waters. It was clear the river had spoken. Elder Jabri lifted his staff high. The river does not lie. Kwame and Amina have proven that true love is stronger than greed, stronger than fear, stronger even than death. The villagers cheered, their voices echoing through the valley. Some wept, others danced. The drums thundered again, not with tension but with celebration. Amina leaned against Kwame, tears of joy streaming down her face. We survived, Kwame. Not even the river could part us. Kwame smiled softly. The river did not seek to part us, my love. It sought to prove us. That evening, under the great Iroko tree, the elders blessed their union. The rope that once bound their wrists was tied again, not by force but by choice. This time, it was adorned with flowers, a symbol of life, not trial. The people feasted for 3 days, telling the story of the lovers who crossed the river of truth. Songs were made, drums carried the rhythm of their courage, and children learned the lesson that would echo through generations. Years later, when Kwame and Amina grew old together, they often sat by the riverbank watching the water flow. Young couples would come to them for guidance. Kwame would tell them, the river tests not with water, but with sacrifice. If you cannot hold each other through storms, you will never reach the calm. And Amina would add with a smile, true love is not about never falling, it is about never letting go. The river of truth flowed on, eternal and patient, waiting for the next hearts brave enough to face its test. True love is proven in sacrifice, not in words. Wealth and power may fade, but loyalty endures. When love faces trials, it either breaks or becomes unshakable.